Welcome to the first ever episode of Wild Dice, a podcast dedicated to Warcry, the community, and all the goings on in and around that space. I'm your host, Toast, and I have gathered the ultimate team of Warcry Elite. Just to nut your lugs off, really, we have the meta definer, Hrothgorn Discoverer, and the chaff portion of three heroes, one chaff, the ever rambolic Girth Demon or Robert Viscomi. How's it going, man?
It's going well. Can confirm ultimate chaff piece. It's really my goal in everything is just to serve as a distraction to just get smacked. Really just masochistic and safe.
We also have a man known the world over for his 12-month expedition with the Hunters of Huanshi and single-handedly taken them from F tier to S tier. We have the perpetual runner-up of Wheelcry. It's Off Meta Musings.
Hello, yes. Internet celebrity Off Meta Musings, I'll have you know.
And last but not least, we have the former Warhammer World Warcry champion, the king of the brush, the lover of Star Soul maces, and a man who has entirely too much dice under his bed. We have Phylax. How's it going, man?
Thank you. Yeah, no, I mean, I am literally... I'm good. I can literally...
It's all about
dice. I'm just surrounded. Like, I have them in test tubes, like in handfuls around me. It's wild. Yes. No, good to be here.
You like them with milk for your breakfast?
Yes. You know, that's the thing. They always tell you, these are not for eating. If you eat them, it helps with your rolls. No one tells me.
I have heard if you use them as suppositories, you will get more 5s and 6s than usual. And that's how I sustained a high meta of winning across the board.
I cannot confirm or deny that's how I kept rolling 6s.
I mean, I just use D20s for that, though. They just pop them right up there. Goes down easy.
So with all of that masturbatory rambling out of the way, let's get on with the show. So really what we're going to do is about the... so in April, there was a Warcry FAQ. It's been 3-4 months since then now. And a lot has changed within the meta. So for our debut episode, I thought it'd be a good idea to narrate about the meta, what's changed, and then discuss the differences between the UK and the US meta, because we've got Rob here, who is an expert in the inferior meta.
The fuck with the inferior meta. That's like, listen, you guys would be in shambles at our local game stores here, all right? First off, you have to compete with the Pokemon players for tables here. That's already you're gonna be sweating bullets just walking by those people, right? So you're already gone. That's one layer of deodorant stripped from you, right? If you don't have an undershirt, it's a bad time there. Second off, sorry we don't take 1-boxes and prance around and hold hands and say what a fun time we're having. It's just made up of straight convicted cold killers. Maybe I should hire some more celebrities like A-Team that come in with Hunters of Huanshi so they can garbage dumpster people at their first time playing, and then they go home and get upset.
Hey, listen. Whoa. If I came out there, no one would even know how I would play.
How did I win? The kid's like 12 crying. You're like, good game, kid.
Seriously, I've got
something to say about energy.
Oh,
that's all right. Okay. Right. Everyone loves to talk about the meta. You get idiots like us come forward and say, we know what we're talking about because we know exactly how things play. The reality, this is my view on this, I don't know if anyone else cares or anyone else believes me, is that whatever's going on in your local game store is the meta and the environment that you're going to be playing in. Very, very few people are going to be playing in these big old events, 50 player, 60 player, whatever. So in reality, when you see videos like mine that tell you and try and tell you what the meta is, it's a snapshot of that moment in time for those players specifically who've been playing in those environments, right? So yeah, that's my preface to this. So we're gonna talk about what's going on in the UK. We're gonna talk about what's going on in the US in Europe, whatever. But something to remember is that what's happening, say, in the UK isn't necessarily going to be directly translatable into what's going on elsewhere. Yeah. But what you can do is you can check out what people are playing. You can check out what people like to play, and then you can kind of use that to shift how people are playing near you.
I mean, one of the things that we've talked with Rob ad nauseum about, and I think is very pertinent for this, is at the end of the day, it's whatever you like to play, right? So a lot of people, we tend to look at things that are performing well. We tend to look at the stats and stuff like that. And the thing is, no matter how good we all four of us are, we have specific play styles. We have specific ways that we like playing and specific ways that we're better at playing. So there's specific teams that Rob would do well with that I would absolutely like bottom out, like go 0-4 in the tournament, right? Same for you, Eitan. Like, everyone has their own play style. And the thing is, quite often I see people being like, what should I play? And I know it sounds silly, but at the end of the day, if you like playing something and you want to play it and you're good at it, you can do well with it. It doesn't matter what it is. Because we keep seeing teams doing well out of nowhere. And it's like, yeah, Warcry isn't a solved game. Like, it isn't. We can talk about efficiencies all day long, but at the end of the day, there's such an element of like randomness, and the missions are good at like are good at leveling the playing field. But at the end of the day, you know, if you get like 4 rounds of just rolling straight garbage, you know, you have to roll with the punches. So I think that there's still so much potential for someone who plays a list and learns it and does very well with it and like absolutely loves it, can come in and do very well, even if, you know, their team is not the most efficient or, you know, has like big weaknesses. Because at the end of the day, you go into a tournament, you play 4 games, you don't know the matchups you're going to get, right? So I think there's potential for everyone. So I think when we talk about the meta, I think a lot of it is, it's a good conversation for us that have multiple teams and kind of want to go for it. But if you have this one team that you love and you really want to like try and play your best Warcry, take it as far as you can.
Well, that's it right there. You said it there. It's like, play your best Warcry. Number one, it's a game that you've committed time to a hobby to paint, right? Play and have fun, dude. Like, if you're a meta chaser and you're going to chase all these pieces, like, it's going to be a problem. If you really want to play more on that end of the scale and be like, listen, I really just want to play what's effective and good, then just look at the effective ally pieces, right? Like, you look at Chaos. Right now, you know that Vexmore and Vanguard are good. They can go into 9 out of 10 lists and make them just infinitely better. So then you can play what you want, inject some good pieces, and have something a little bit more viable with punching power. There are ways to break it down. One thing you said is really interesting. That's a big difference already between UK, US, at least for us. And I know they do it in No Cry in Norway and stuff like that, is we like your packs are kind of just, you take the Ferocious Gnarlwood pack and it's just random like 4 missions and you go in and that's it. Where with us, a lot of them are TO constructed packs where we kind of know ahead of time what it is. So there's more of a, what's the meta for this individual pack? So like if we're talking about like in broad of like a meta or not meta or anything like that, it's more so much like what pieces make certain warbands more effective or efficient, as opposed to this is the end all to be all. Because when the FAQ happened and we saw that Flame Hurlers weren't hit and Vanguard wasn't hit and Vexmore wasn't hit, we were just like, whoa, what's it called? The Flame Boys are going to be like super good, right? Like Shatters are 60, but like you can still get 2 Flame Hurlers, get a Vexmore, or we could get a Vanguard in there. Like nobody's going to stop this. And I haven't seen anything from that yet, right? There's so many things that changed without it. And ultimately this game's like it is a big like hipster game. Like I know everybody on my team, like we have lists that are pure toxic. And we're like, nope, just shelve it. Because if we go and play it, no one's going to have fun. We're not going to have fun. The person against us is not going to have fun. Like, we want to play something with teeth and play something good, but we kind of want to flex the individual merit of this game, which is how well can you design a list, right? You could both bring one box, have a great time, but how well can you design the list, and how much fun can you have it? And is it a nightmare for somebody else?
Well, that's interesting because of how the US designed their lists compared to the UK, it highlights two completely different skills. So because the US the US players tend to know all this stuff in advance, they can plan super heavily and make hyper efficient lists that simply wouldn't work in a UK setting or a European setting, because we don't do that. We have to build lists that are more balanced, and that flexes a completely different list building muscle, basically, and changes how the game fundamentally plays on the pre-game, right? When you're building your list, you can't just go, oh, well, this will work. Like if I take, I don't know, Vexmo and Varangard, it works in most cases, granted. But if the pack selection does have a bunch of stuff that doesn't fit into Vexmo's slow speed or whatever, then it's not going to work quite so well. You've got to kind of like have no comers. I brought in Warmworld last time. I brought a very balanced list that could do just about everything. Pretty sure it would have gone completely stomped if it was an Adepticon, right? Because it wouldn't have had the kill power to do anything in the hyper killy format that's currently developing, which I think is become more apparent, especially when you look at like the TTS League. Lists have gotten way deadlier. Like,
everything's lethal.
Time to kill.
A lot more lethality across the game.
Way down. People are dying all the time. Like, it's kind of crazy. Smaller warbands that are way more efficient at killing. Mostly. There are some big warbands still. And that's definitely a thing we've got to address too, though. It's kind of funky.
You guys went to 5-3-1, right? And I think that's awesome because there is way more lethality, so it is way harder to protect your pieces. Therefore, there's going to be a lot more dice rolling, which is fun. That's what the game's about. There's going to be a lot more aggression, and that's completely fine because it opens up angles to find what's a good control warband, what's a good tempo warband, so on and so forth, to break and make new archetypes, right? But having like that major minor, if it's not augmented to like major minor to point differential, like if it's just the old school GW, don't lose half your warband or whatever it might be, the lethality now would just absolutely decimate certain warbands and make them like tournament have a struggle time or like a harder time. Like something like RBF, for example. I know Andy's piloting it to great success, but Andy or Kyle, like from 3H1C from my team, like at the end of the game, they're missing like 6-7 pieces, sometimes 8-9. And that's because they hold a lead and then have to trade pieces to keep that lead. And if you're telling them that you can never do that or it's going to be a minor win, it'd be something that's super detrimental to the game. So switching to 5-3-1, saying, did you win or you lose? Did the ball go in the hoop or not? Or, I don't know, make a cricket analogy for you guys or something like that. A soccer analogy. Did you kick the goal, son? Did it go in? No, try again, right? Like, you win or lose. And I like that. It lets you kind of feel it out. It doesn't reward you for like, ooh, that was a close game. Maybe it should be a little bit more, you know. But honestly, did you win or lose? It's not so many how many pieces did you give up.
Yeah.
I do think there's also one other thing to say when we talk about the meta and how people play in this kind of thing. It really only applies to maybe the top 20% at most of any event that you go to. So it's not like TTS League where I want to say all the sweaty bastards are there. They're ready to go. And it's like the hardest event you've ever been to because it's like the top table at every event, right? Like when you normally go to an event, and I know that Warcry is still very much seen as a casual game, right? And there are a lot of casual players. And I think the idea of going to an event for casual people is very off-putting because it's like, well, I just want to go, I want to roll my dice, I want to have fun, I want to play Warcry, I want to do this. But there'll all be all these like crazy ass lists there that I'm basically going to get stomped and it's not going to be a good time. The reality is that most events aren't like that. And outside of the first round, you aren't likely to see any of these lists. So when we talk about this is how people play and this is what they're bringing and this is how they're playing it, we're only really talking about the top tables at an event. So you can bring basically whatever you like and you should have a good time, really, when you're going to an event. You don't really need to worry about the best lists that other people are bringing, unless you're really shooting for the very top and you say, right, I'm going to go to this event and I have my goal is to go and win this event. So now I need to figure out what people are bringing, how they're bringing it, and what they're going to be playing.
Yeah, I genuinely. Yeah, no, I think that we are living through, the whole thing. You only know that you've been in the good times after they've passed. I genuinely feel like we're in the bit where Warcry is popular enough to have like a good meta and like good players and stuff like that, but there aren't too many people that are into that, which means that going to a tournament is a pleasant experience. Because as you said, you have your first game, you have your second game, and my February experience was that I lost my first game, lost my second game, and I was down with like people who were there to have fun and had nice fun games, relaxed, got to meet a lot of like really cool people, and just have fun. And that's, to plug this in as well, because of course, that's the vibe that I'm trying to get for the events up here. The 2 tournaments in August and the tournament in September. And that's what I would love for Warcry to have as a tournament scene. I would like it to be as relaxed as that, because I know that like Middle-earth, the Middle-earth battle game, has a very kind of similar vibe of like, it's competitive, but people will show up in costume and they'll kind of do some really fun stuff, and it's more about the fun than it is about the kind of winning. And I feel like Warcry has this unique experience where, because so many things are out of your control, you have to, even if you're like making a list that is straight killer, you're going straight for the top, you have to expect that something might happen that just completely throws you off. So having that there kind of takes a bit of the pressure away. And yeah, I would love for this game to continue being like this, and not get like much more sweaty, really.
There's a lot of like friendly rivalry. I noticed even like at our locals where there's like 3 of my team out of the 4 goes there. We have several dudes from TTS League, so we have some really good players that go. We grab some new bodies, but nobody's like crunching down, bearing down. Like everyone's playing at a good high level, but they're playing for fun, and it's mostly just about spending a day out in something that feels really good, because nobody wants to turn it into. You can have competitive. Competitive doesn't mean it's going to be vicious and sweaty, right? Like we don't want it to be unbearable for people to be like, oh, I gotta face this guy. Like that, there's nothing worse than if I'm going up to an opponent and they're like, oh man, I gotta play this guy. Like if they know who I am or anything like that, that'd make me feel unfun. Like I feel like people should be like, oh, this guy's gonna be tough, but it's gonna be fun. And that's it. And that's what it's about. It's fostering, like, we're a small environment, just like Middle-earth, right? Like, or anything like that, where we want to make sure we grow everybody to have that good time, but still say, hey, you could play one box, you could play it really well and try hard and get a little sweaty. But there's a difference between being like not enjoyable sweaty and like enjoyable sweaty, right? Like we want competition in a friendly way. And I think that's where, out of all the tournaments I've gone to TTS, honestly, I could count like 1 or 2 times that it's been a bad experience, and even then, like, it was able to be resolved. So it's not even, I haven't had anything terrible. Like, it's been good.
Yeah, with Warcry, I've been in war games almost as long as Off Meta has, and 40k was my poison growing up, and every game is toxic in 40k. It's a toxic play environment, right? And I've been playing Warcry for maybe 2 years now, and I've had one bad game ever, like where the opponent was actually legitimately toxic. And I've played hundreds of games of Warcry. It's like what we do. We play Warcry endlessly, right? It's what we do. I've had one bad game, and I think that's a testament to the quality of the community, right? Like, it's a bunch of people who are like there to kind of have a bit of fun and to hang out, right? And even in events, people are kind of surprisingly chill. like people, if they are getting really, I've noticed a lot when people get really sweaty at Warmer World, they apologize as they're being sweaty. So I was against a massive horde in one of my games a few months back, and the guy was just out waiting us, and he knew that like waiting's proper sweaty, right? He's like doubling my warband, right? He's like, I am so sorry that I'm waiting all the time. I know it's really bad for you, right? I'm like, dude, knock yourself out. That's how you're going to win this game, right? But they apologized. He was like, I'm getting a bit sweaty here, but I'm going to mention it and be like, I'm sorry about this, but I am going to win this. So yeah, you are. But that's fine. Don't worry about it. It's bizarre. It's a bizarre, uniquely bizarre environment to exist in.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think that's because there's very few, and waiting is one of them. There's very few actions in Warcry that are unfun, but are directly helping you. So like waiting, as you said, like it's tactically great for you, very unfun for your opponent, because it's just kind of throwing the ball back. It's like you do all your moves so then I can move around you without any interaction. But I think it's very rare to have a game that has so little stuff that is like tactically great but isn't like a fun experience.
Yeah,
that's 100%. I think the wait action is it feels bad, but it's like oh, I moved my 8 guys, now you got your remaining 6 to go, and then it's like watching someone take a Yu-Gi-Oh turn where they're like shuffling their deck 60 times, building the wall, wiping your board, and then setting up to say they win. And it's like 5 minutes goes by, and you're like, I don't even know what's going on anymore. It's part of the play style for it. I mean, like yet again, like it's funny that people do apologize, like, and I do think, excuse me, I do the same thing. Like if I'm dicing somebody, I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like here's a 6. Like someone was asking like the correct move, and I was helping a new person learn. I'm like, you can step in, but you know, Cool Boy's reaction will say this. And they're like, okay, well, this is my only chance to do it, right? I'm like, yeah, unfortunately, this is like your best chance. And like they stepped in, and then I rolled like 6, 6, like 5, and like I hit him for 10 and killed the dryad off the board. And I'm just like, oh man, I'm so sorry. Like you just like walked into it like knowing like it's gonna be okay, and then it wasn't okay. Like, but it's like it's making it a laugh, right? Like I've had to learn how to like really calm down and enjoy things a little bit more. Just thankful like Mike from my team like helped teach me to just laugh with people, or if like I'm in a bad spot, right? Like playing on TTS where it's all grinding. It's how do you just have fun with it from here? How are you losing? Like you're losing, like let's just have fun. Let's just laugh, roll dice, have a good time, make the best of it. And I think it's capable in a game that's not 3 hours long, like 40K, where it's like, well, I still got to move 8 million bodies around. Like we still got to do stratagems. We still got to do all this, and it just piles on a feeling of like, okay, I get it. You're doing well. And so they're just like, I just move this guy, roll dice, move it off the board. Okay, cool, your turn. Like it's a little bit better just because of the time.
Yeah.
But the Kumbaya-ing here was really good, and I'm glad we got to set precedents up. But let's talk a little bit about Toast, if you're okay with it. I want to see what you guys are playing over there in terms of new stuff since the fact, because you guys seem pretty unique out there right now.
Ethan, do you want to chime in on the state of what you've witnessed in you've been in more tournaments?
The things that I have witnessed would shock and amaze.
Yeah, that 2 and 2 is pretty crazy, right?
That 2 and 2. Listen, man, for the first time in my entire Warcry playing career, I came against not 1 but 2 monsters. One was a chimera.
That's so tough, dude.
The other was a giant. So the thing is, right, okay, so addressing the chimera in the room very quickly. The guy who played the chimera list didn't win that event.
No.
He didn't win all his games. I think he went, what did he go? 3 and 1? Is that right?
He came 4th, I think, overall.
Yeah, 4th with 3 and 1. Now
3rd or 4th, I believe. I think it's 3rd, but I could be wrong.
Something like, anyway, 3 and 1 is
4th was the Iron Golems. That was 1 box.
Yeah,
awesome. He was definitely
so great, dude.
Yeah.
Although that does intensify the ITAN 5T propaganda that he's gonna raise alarms against, because apparently that's insurmountable. with a strength 10 unit that exists in the game. But
so what was I going to say? Okay, so right, so the fact is that we can see a chimera list, and it isn't going to just face roll everything. I think is a testament to the environment that we've kind of built out here. One with the missions, because the missions are really key in stopping lists like that from just flattening things. If you had a more kill focus pack, then yeah, Chimera would just walk all over things. It just happened to be I faced the Chimera, which is very good at killing, in a kill mission, and there's not much you can do about it, right? But you know, Scabic does things. He killed it eventually, but it was too late.
Are you telling me that 6'6", 5'10" is a good profile?
I would say that it's an average profile. I'd say it's extremely fair. I'd say
it feels good. I heard it feels good.
I'd say that it's a little bit weak, which is why they needed to give it fly.
Definitely.
And they should probably just tune it up. Why not just be 6'10"? Like, I don't like that 5 cutoff, right? We should just be able to breathe off.
Bracken, what are you doing? Right. So, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, the Chimera. Right. So there's that. So the mission's one part of it. Second part is the terrain that we use at Warhammer World. Right.
Yeah.
It's somewhere in the region of 1.5 to 2 boxes of actual Warcry terrain. So you get proper dense boards, and I think that's the way that Warcry is supposed to be played.
Yeah.
And some 100%.
That's the plan.
Yep.
I've been painting a lot of terrain.
Keep painting.
Question: do they use a lot of what type of terrain you guys use a lot of? Is a lot of it just Gur primarily when you go there, or is it like a mixture of things?
The original Warcry, so like the sluice boxes of not Sundered Fate, whatever it is, the mines. Yeah, we've got that weird temple terrain that I don't like.
Ziggurat, yeah.
Yeah, that's in there, a couple of those. It's just everything and anything that's ever been released for Warcry. There's very little non-Warcry terrain in there.
Well, I was going to say, I haven't... So there's the graveyard as well. The
Corpse Mausoleum.
They've renamed it.
Garden of More.
As well.
But they haven't had... I haven't seen at least the second one. I haven't seen the second ruined temple, like the one that's very similar to the Corset. I haven't seen that, and I have one of them. And in general, like it's either really dense Corset or it's like really sparse Gur, and that's why I dislike Gur sets so much, because like if you're either playing somewhere where you have tons of places to hide, tons of places to climb, or you're playing somewhere where it's like, here's 3 trees, good luck. And I dislike that so much.
I think my issue with Gur terrain specifically is that it's a dick for catching your hands on every bit of terrain and knocking everything over at all times.
Yep.
Dude, the first game my first tournament I ever played, I sliced my finger open going through recycling trying to find my AirPod that fell out. So like I was like rolling with like a clubbed finger wrapped up, and every time I moved it forward, it would catch the meat trees and just dismantle the whole board in like one roll. To the point where I had to play Warcry with one hand, and it was like the worst thing ever. So my precision with Gur terrain is just, I can't do it anymore. Like it's so bad, dude. Just clip the trees, please.
My first game in Gur terrain in a tournament was my second game ever, and it was Atan. And I'm sitting there and I look ahead and I go, wait, this isn't YouTube. What are you doing here? And I was like shaking because I was like it was my first time. I was like so excited that
you were playing Soulblight Overlords. I remember my only loss from that event.
But I was like so. I must have apologized like 10 times because I kept knocking that tree in the middle. And I also spent like 20 minutes deciding which skeleton was going to wait next, but that's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, not loving the Gur stuff. So the sets that I have, I've got a few MDF ones. So this is advanced warning for the people that are coming through. So I've got Corset, I've got the other ruins, I've got a couple of the temples, so apologies, Eitan. And a couple of the half-built cities. It's mostly like ruins, so it's going to be nice and dense. So, and I think that's the way that Warcry should be played. It should have verticality, and it should have like a lot of nooks and crannies.
Yeah, and so all that going back to what happens in Nottingham specifically, because I only play in Nottingham, right? They run the biggest events in the UK, so that's where I play. And so all of that feeds into the kind of lists that do well, specifically in those events. You're going to see a lot more, I think, balanced lists because of the way the missions work and because of the way the terrain is. You can't just afford to go, okay, here's all my really slow movement 3 dudes, because you're not going to be able to get anywhere because there's so much terrain in the way. You're going to have to go up to the middle of the board. You're going to have to go wherever. You might have a corner deployment or something like that. So you have to build your lists to do well with a little bit of everything. And that's, I think, where what's going on in the UK differs from what's happening elsewhere. We've touched on this already before. That you can't just bring the biggest, smashiest thing that you can to an event and expect to win it, because just even before you've rolled any dice, before you've seen any players, the terrain and the missions are going to work against you on that one.
Well, Iron Jaws, being one of the smashiest factions in the game, right?
Yeah.
Have historically done terribly in the Warhammer world because they can't freaking move. They're too slow and can't get over terrain. It's a massive hindrance.
We were talking about like meta, right? Like the differences of it. And I think pre-fact, Ironjaws had that notion of being like, I want to brawl you, but I don't want to fight SCE or ogres, right? Like they were like the 7th grade bullies, right? Because our middle school, 6th, 7th, 8th, like they were bullying the 6th graders, but the 8th graders would bully them, right? I don't support bullying. And just getting that out there. This podcast does not support it, but Ironjaws does. And they're really good. And it just seems like after the advent and addition of like Proxigors, making them really solid profile for 2 points, and then making everything else like just like the introduction of other things like Vexmore and other things in the game that have lethality for like better points or the same costed points, they lost the feel to me, other than like Brute Boss. Like they lost the feel of being able to go in there and do what they need to do to clean up pieces. Now you have things that can go on point and scrap with them just as well. So you have faster things like Proxigors. And then you still have these big, slow, wobbly bases, 32 plus millimeter bases, trying to truck along the board, while then you're getting blocked by a 50 millimeter base like a Crocs or something else like, or 40 like Vexmore. And it's crazy, right? Like they're at like with the increase of, or with the addition of like the fact rate, like I've noticed, especially locally and on TTS, they've been doing a lot less. I thought they were really good. I think I tested like 5 or 6 games with like with A10, playing them with like Blood Hunter and all these things, and I'm like, man, something's missing. I just don't have that punch like everybody else has right now. When you're able to take a Storm Fiend, a Vexmore, a Lasavir, a Skabic, a bunch of bodyguards and all that, like I'm just like, man, like I can only do so much compared to what he can do with their points and how they're working out. And then like I still can't brawl Stormcast. Even with their point, I still can't. I don't want to fight ogres or gut lords. Like nobody wants to do that. So like I noticed as the meta, like Ironjaw is kind of falling off. I have an IJ player that's local and he's really good with them. And he's also on DTS with them. But like just watching a Croc score walk up and be like, well, I'm still hitting you on 3s. By the way, here's 6 bites because there are 6 attacks because I'm between 2 now. Well, it's gone. And you're just like, well, okay. What they're designed to do is no longer like in that spot where they need to be. And I think that's an interesting grab from like all these things that have changed. Just the biggest noticeable change to me. Not the biggest, but it's noticeable change to me. So
I think the problem with Ironjaws at the moment is previously, let's think about what they're really good at, right? They trade up against any like 60, 70, 80 point chaff up to like 100 points, let's say. They trade up because they got the wounds, they got the toughness, they got the base damage profile, They have abilities that can multiply like how fast they get there, and they're really good at doing that because their points cost is generally pretty low. But what we've seen is the amount of those chaff models that people are taking has gone down. So the thing that Iron Jaws are naturally real good against is kind of being squeezed out of the game, just by how it's going. And what people are taking, no longer are we looking at in the top end of competitive play, let's say. Just like, okay, here's my list. It's got 2 big beat sticks. One of them's really fast. One of them's like kind of tanky and smashy. It's like, all right, well, I got 4 solid mid-range I'ma punch you down fighters that can't compete in terms of damage to the really big boys, but you don't need that anymore because when you got just like 4 really solid dudes, suddenly Iron Jaws aren't trading up against them anymore because they're like 150 points, 200 points. We're sitting on maybe a 3-5 damage profile, 3, maybe 4 attacks, and that's something that Iron Jaws really struggle to get into. So I don't think it's Iron Jaws have got worse. It's that the things that they were traditionally good against have kind of just not disappeared, but they've kind of moved out of the way a little bit.
There's more 8th graders in the building, so they can't fight the 8th graders.
Yeah, basically.
That's exactly what I said. Thanks, Atan, for supporting my point. I appreciate it. Really cool that you had to go around that and re-say it for me. I appreciate it.
Well, you know, we've got people from all over the place watch this.
We've got to translate it, right? We've got to translate into real English.
No, I'll agree with both of you. Because after Ephraim got retired, honorably, I was toying around with an Oops All Brutes elite list because I don't have the brain space to play anything that has more than 6 anymore. And it's exactly what you said. I found that Questor are the ones that are actually struggling to deal with Iron Jaws, because Questor, funnily enough, don't have the damage to like keep up with them. But it's exactly the same. When you have, I think it's because the only 4-8 profile is a Mega Boss, and the Mega Boss is too wide to be anywhere, right?
It's huge. It's really big.
And the next one along is the 3-6-3-6, which is the Brute Boss, right?
Right.
Which is a decent profile, but like it's not gonna cleave something off the board, and the profiles just get worse after that. So because all of your killing power is spread between your models, you don't have 2 killing models and then 2 that are like tanks and then 2 that are fast. All of your models have some killing power and some tankiness, but if you don't have them close together so that you can gang up, you're just getting picked off. Because I played Kit recently, which Kit's won the TTS League before. He's got like this really tuned in Slaves to Darkness list with Kagra and stuff, and it was just Kagra teleporting across the board and just looking at brutes and going dead. Because the thing is, even if you get all of your pieces in the right spots, it's I go, you go. So for every piece that you may be able to get, your opponent will be able to get 2 hits on the other one. And if you're not going to survive that, that's it. You've lost 15% of your warband, and that's just going to get worse.
Same thing, like running back to what I-10 was saying too. Like, and like you spoke on the Mega Boss, right? Like the Mega Boss at one point was like, dude, that's a 4-8 profile, 3 attacks, he's charging in. That's scary. And I know we're probably with like game design, it's probably not proper to speak on comparison between factions, but when it's 5 points more to take a Blessed Croxagore that runs 1 more, that has 2-inch reach, it's a lot scarier for the same points, and it doesn't take up a hero slot, and it's not on a 60mm base. All of a sudden the Mega Boss's beauty starts looking a little bit more, the beer goggles come off, and you're kind of like,
well, what's interesting with the Mega Boss is that all the other 4-8 profiles were hit. Starsoul Maces were hit. Fomeraids, Myrmidons, all hit. But the Mega Boss stayed the same.
Right.
And you would have thought that because all of the other 4-8 profiles got worse, he would see more play, or as much play, simply because he's now the cheapest form of that profile in the game, right? but then Croxagore get added at the same time, and they really do overshadow them, right? They've got less wounds, granted, but they hit just as hard. They've got access to Tearing Bite. They can amplify the number of attacks they can get. Right? They've got a very defensive reaction, which is very nice. So they can stay alive on points as well. And it's like, wow, that's 5 points more than that Mega Boss, and it is better in almost every conceivable way. And it's weird. I wasn't expecting that. I was assuming the Mega Boss would see more play and be actually pretty good, but it's base size and there's better things, right?
The biggest turnoff to that piece. Like, I can add a whole diorama and have a small steak dinner on that plate while I'm like getting it ready for a competition. And it's a sweet model, and it's a Mega Boss. Like, dude does work, but like it's got access to WOG, it's got access to Mighty Destroy, whatever it might be. But it's just, it doesn't feel adequate enough to where if I take a brute and I duff up the big thing, or I bless the brute to be the same as a boss, and then I go in and then I duff up the big thing, and then I'm throwing 5 on strike 7, so I'm hitting on 4s, and I'm like 3/6 profile. The damage starts looking better. I think the math, it starts playing out a little bit better, or nearly identical to like the Mega Boss. And it still has access to UMass End, it still has access to WOG, it still has access to all that stuff. So you're starting to see like kind of a turn, and duffing up is definitely more relevant now than it's ever been, right? With the advent of Vexmore, the advent of Croxagore, the advent of all these other mid-range fighters that are 15 plus. So there's other things too for it. But one thing I've noticed, which I haven't seen you guys play a lot over here at my locals, I've won with one. Peter from my team won with one. TTS League won it once, and someone's like already in like 3rd place with it. Is Sybarites. Sybarites needed that Vexmore piece to add a tank, to add a scary piece while you're fast pieces. And you can just, as long as you have Slay Slash in there, you can have a Lord of Pain, a Lord of Hubris. You can do whatever you want. There's some homunculuses in there. Everybody's lightning fast, so it doesn't matter how slow your Vexmore is. That has been a huge shift for us over here, is seeing Sybarites, like, which were notoriously mid-range, right? Like, notoriously mid-range. Yeah. And now it's like, it's time to shine. Like, it doesn't matter how big your guy is. If I could just run 10, I could move 6, charge 6, and still throw 4 dice. I'm blessed up in strength. Like, I'm shocking you. I'm taking away a model before you get to respond. And I can wait on the other stuff because they're already moving 5 anyway. Sybarites has been a huge player, at least over here on East Coast, at least in the stuff that we're running, at least in TTS. I know, like, the Midwest and stuff, Madison, where Mike's near and stuff like that, has a different, like, their own personalized meta for it. But like, I'm only speaking to what I see here and stuff like that. So Sybarites has been absolutely stonks.
Well, I think on that point, it's very much a factor of Chaos were waiting for an Annihilator Prime equivalent hero that they could bring in. All right, something around about 200 points, something that could brawl, something that was tanky, something that could just do damage, and that's what Vexmore gives. Now, right. I'm actually pretty sad that Vexmore has come out, because I really like the Chaos Chosen Champion, and I think it's fantastic for the points cost that you're paying, but because Vexmore exists, that model has just seen no play, and no one even knows the thing exists. But it got brand new stats, it got brand new points cost, its damage is solid, like it does what you need to do. And I feel like if Vexmore wasn't there, the Chosen Champion is what we would have been seeing instead fill that role. And to link that to Sybarites, I don't think it's just because of Vexmore. I think if you have these middling warbands, and you do give it that piece that you can ally in, that's what really allows them to shoot up. Because Sybarites have everything else, right? They got speed, they got damage in the form of Slake Slash, but it's generally pretty fragile damage when we think about it. They got really good chaff models in the Homunculus because they're super cheap and you can bring them. So they have everything in faction for success, but what they didn't have was that big, like, fat brawly piece. But now they have that, and I think even if Vexmore didn't exist, you could slot that Chosen Champion right into that list, and it would do kind of the same thing. It would just, you'd be spending more points on it. Because
weirdly, like, the Sybarites are also like they can go really brawl heavy now as well. Like Vexmore's really brawly. Take Vasilak. He's a tanky boy. 28 wounds, toughness 5. He's hard as nails. Like throw in even their basic pain bringers. 15 wounds, toughness 5, 105 points, like 2-4 damage, 4 attacks. They're pretty good in combat as well. You can make quite a solid wall of just like Slaanesh steel, and then throw in a Vashtis in there.
Yep.
Makes them even harder to kill. You've now got a fairly solid and decently sized, all things considered, warband that's really hard to shift in a warband that's traditionally kind of squishy because it's Slaanesh, right?
Yeah,
I've watched three different lists win first place in 3 different events. All taking Vexmore, all taking Slake Slash was like the commonality between all of them. And then the Slake Slash is just point for point the best, most efficient move 6 model in the game, right? Like it's just too good. And then on top of that, you have like, do I want to take Alert of Hubris? I have Alert of Pain. I have a Vasilak. I can take just take a Vashtis if I want to kind of support things. You have so much options. You could just take Painbringers if you want. You can do all these things, and it gives you a lot of flexibility and list expression for what you are playing on and what you want to go against. I think that's a sign of a good faction. Yeah, it sucks. You're probably taking Vexmore in it, but like, oh no, my 180 point 510 damage model is super good. I mean, but hey, it lets really cool new models get on the board and play in place. And I think that's at the end of the day not a bad thing.
I mean, it goes back to specific factions not seeing play until that one piece has to get into place. But I was going to say it's really funny because it links to what we've been talking, because we've been talking about Iron Jaws and Sybarites. And I wanted to give a little shout out to the Pit Warcry down they had a tournament in Bristol. They have a summer series of Warcry tournaments all over the area. It's Jose Carnero, if I've got that right, I hope. The Pit Warcry. And they did a 16-player tournament yesterday. Andy took it with his Beast Flares, unsurprisingly, 4-0. Charlie with Slaanesh Demons, Bitter Lake on Instagram, came second with 3-1. And then Jamie Dilcantha with Iron Jaws came third. So it's exactly like we've been talking about, with the exception of obviously Andy being incredible with the Beast Slayers, which ties into what I said at the start of you play what you like and you play it enough and you'll do really well.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good thing there with Andy and Royal Beast Flayers. Right? Royal Beast Flayers have been existing in the bottom of the tier lists for a while, right? Since release, they haven't seen all too much play. There's been some outliers. Obviously, 3-1 Shaft's Kyle has been playing them extensively, but they've been fairly sat on. People don't tend to play them too much, and as more people have been playing them, like tech has come out, they've started to climb those ranks, and it really is highlighting that sometimes player skill is actually a very important factor in Warcry. It's not just your list. It's not just running around with the best factions and following all the things. It really is just like if you're a good enough pilot, you can take what you want and win, right? in many cases.
Yeah. And there's something that I do want to remind people. There are over 50 factions now in Warcry. There's a lot of stuff, and it's only natural that we are not going to see all of them top events at any one time. There's gonna be there's gonna be things that are just like, so Vexmore's out. The big fad at the moment is for all these Chaos players, they come out of the woodwork, they're bringing Vexmore, and that's why you see them at the top of events. But just because you see a lot of that, what you do see on the other side of things is a lot of warbands that just aren't taken. Now, there's a whole bunch of reasons for that, right? They might legitimately be not all that good, but you'll never know if you don't try. And if it's something that you like doing and you put in the hours, you can get good at basically any warband, right? There's nothing out there apart from what are they called? The flame wraiths. I hate them.
Pyregeists.
I'm so disappointed with the Pyregeists.
Oh, them and River Daddies are.
No. I was talking to Toast about this, right? You know what
Mhm.
Riverblades have that Pyregeists
Nothing?
don't have?
Nothing.
No, they have 65-point chaff, which means you can ally in a Kellyan King and a Quest or Soulsworn, and suddenly that list becomes able to beat lists. There's nothing you can ally into Pyregeists.
Drop down to like 8, 9 models, and
it doesn't matter. Those two will carry.
Explode, dude.
They will carry you every day.
Pyregeist, you just got to go double Flame Daddy, and then all of a sudden you just pop off with the triple, and then hopefully if that wins you the game, then you're good. If not, you just walk away, which stinks too because Kyle made his Pyregeist. He's taken him to Nova for narrative because they have really cool narrative rules, and he has them like wired with like LEDs, and then he like Dremel through the base. They all light up. I don't want to like share the pictures of them. I want people to be surprised. They are awesome looking, and they have some of the coolest narrative rules. But you're right, like it is really tough to play something that's just poorly constructed. 65-point chaff is good, but at the end of the day, elf chaff. And at least you get a cool counter out of it, which is like, go ahead, you're gonna roll ones, which is kind of fun if like you're just into having a good time. Yeah. And I mean, like, I know we've been talking a little bit about like meta stuff like that, but that's like a good segue, I think, into we just saw the Briar and Bone release, right? So like from elf boys to mech wood trees with elf spirits versus boner boys construed up
Bone
with
centaurs.
Bone
That's
centaur,
what you need.
let's go.
How small that thing looks was so disappointing. I felt like every other girlfriend I've ever had when there's like, that's it, and I'm like, listen, this is all you're getting. Like you can't be too picky now. You got the bone centaur here. That thing better whip with that vertebrae. I was gonna originally kit bash it with like Lord Santos or whatever his name is from OBR, the dude with the sick looking spear. I was like, I'm gonna do. Then I saw how mediocre that thing. It's basically just a regular tableauist Death Rider, and I was just like, that the bee chick looks more impressive, right? Like she looks more swole, more girth veins going on with those bees. This dude's coming in with this little like goddamn whippy skip vertebrae thing. I'm like, dude, this thing better be awesome, because if it's not, we got some problems here, kid.
I think with like the Pyre and the Flood being absolutely fucking terrible, right? That's just, we'll say it was a terrible release. Nothing was actually all that great in it. The Briar and the Bone, surely it can't be worse. So we're going uphill from there.
Why would you say that?
Don't even have to
Why
set us up
would
like
you
that.
say that?
Don't even do it, dude.
That is
That's
just...
That's
So
like
obviously
putting
these
a
are
bunch of
these are gonna be
firecrackers in the
fine.
toilet and being like, I don't think anything bad's gonna happen here. Like, let's just flush it. If it goes down the drain, it won't happen, right? Like, come on, man.
One of the things that I've seen pop up a few times on Discord about the Aussie Arc specifically, because we do know some of the things that they can do that have been teased. For example, there's the wild dice mechanic being teased in some way. We don't know how it's going to work, but there's a wild dice mechanic built into them. And people are saying or thinking it could be like the Pyre tokens in the sense that they won't have a reaction, and instead it'll be a wild dice thing built into their kits that replaces their reaction. I hope to God they don't do that. Because one of the reasons the Pyregeist are so mid is that they don't have a reaction at all, apart from their base ones. And it's like a massive bit of their kit's missing for a fairly underwhelming ability. And I would much rather this not be like that. And I hope they've learned that.
I still can't believe that they just don't have a reaction. Like every time, because I haven't engaged with any of it, and I'm like, no. What? Why?
I'm gonna give you guys a secret. I'm gonna tell you why they're all gonna be middling. Okay. 1,000 points in a box. Yeah. Average price of a hero is how much? 200 points.
Yeah.
200 points. Each one of these warbands is what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 fighters. Okay, so 1,000 points minus 200 is 800 points that you're going to spread over your remaining 7 fighters. So let's say the bone dogs are a little bit cheaper. The flying guys are a bit more expensive because they got wings. They're going to have flight, right? You pay through the nose of fly. You always do. But on average, we're going to be looking at something like 120, 130 points for each guy. You tell me when a warband has been released where every single model is in the region of 120, 130 points, and it's been good.
KMK. I just destroyed your house of cards. Sit down.
Yeah, I know, but they have a whole bunch of different weapon options.
That's true.
That's fair, yeah.
Right? We're looking.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Like you called it out on that. Like you have to look at it. It's going to be 8 models each. You know, realistically, they're going to be upwards more expensive. We see some new Dryad scopes. They'll probably be anywhere from 70 to like 90. We can take a guess on that. My eyes are on the cool archer. My eyes are on the cool spear dude, the whip lady, and bees. Right. Here's the cool part too. If we just get rid of that, we just put in these things called Bladeborn. We're okay with it as long as it's semi-functional and has a decent reaction and has some cool dice abilities. We're okay. I've also listed like 7 things I'm asking for there, which is probably not going to happen. And then same thing with like the bone boys. Like one, I don't even care. I'm just gonna buy that half the box to smelt it together in the basement because they're horrible looking. You could do so many cool things with OBR, and you made bone harpies that look like my late grandmother's friend, who we called Old Goat, because she would just sit on her like deck and yell at us. She looked exactly like the bone harpies, like not the wings but the face. And then like
with the wings too.
Yeah, dude, might as well be with the wings, dude. That was a traumatic time growing up. I shared this on another like show, but that was horrible. Anyway. She's terrible, and so are they. And then dang, dude, like you got dogs. Dogs are kind of cool, but they're beasts. They're not going to be a pick of treasure. You're going to want to consume wild dice, which is really cool, but that means you're banking your wild dice, which means you're at the mercy of using stuff to like not being able to use what you want to do. Want to make that triple? Not doing it, right? So like you're not going to want to ally and stuff that needs to do it. Like I'm a little scared of that. I think the bees look cool though, man. I'm going to keep harking back on that. Like. I think that seems like a really cool theme, but let's forget.
They're both very cool themes. I think you touched on something that I think it's stuck in there with me and Philax, is just ally stuff in to fix them.
Yeah.
Right. I fundamentally disagree with that as a way of determining if a warband's good. I find that incredibly boring.
I'm not the guy sitting there making the profiles for that. Then make it better, because it seems like Fire and Flood or whatever the frigate was called was tested against each other, because like the one box plays really well to each other. It's a lot of fun. It's back and forth. It's cool. But like if they're just testing against each other and like you're gonna let it go out and then someone's gonna be like, I'm gonna have a great time, and then like someone rides their Baron Guard down their face and like you like Storm of Blows, and then
the issue is obviously the warbands, right, aren't good. But what I think my point is that I would much rather the warbands, bespoke warbands specifically, actually be somewhat playable without allies. And then allies can simply enhance them. Not that you are just playing your allies and you are token playing Pyregeists or Riverblades. Because it's really, like, when I was making Riverblade lists when they first came out, it was just the leader, some shit chaff, and a bunch of mates. And it was really boring to play because you weren't playing the faction at all. You were just playing with allies. And that's a flaw in Warcry's list building, is that it is so open, but at the same, which is fantastic, but it also means that if a warband is fundamentally crap, you do just fix it with allies and it feels shit. You're not really playing the warband then.
But that's the super interesting. Sorry, that's the super interesting thing. So like, first off, the Sylvaneth half is going to be really interesting to see, because we've seen Sylvaneth played a lot, and they're like, all the feedback that I've seen from people is that it's like almost there. It's missing a bit. And if you see the whole kind of infected Sylvaneth and the fact that like one of them has a bunch of whips and its arm looks fucking swole, right? They put a bit of damage into the Sylvaneth formula. That's going to be really interesting. But on top of that, don't mention Bladeborn. It hurts my heart, right? Because I have so many of the Underworld models, right? And the fact that they still haven't like updated the points so that we have some more options. When it first came out, it was incredible for list building. You had so many options. And now you only have the few that are undercosted on the old points, right? So, like, that just breaks my heart. But I also, it's really interesting trying to figure out what they're doing with the one box, because you keep seeing Iron Golems, you see some Corvus Cabal, you see Monster Killers doing well one box, right? It's great. And then you see that some of the newer ones are, as you said, like they look like they need allies, but then they release things like the Cities of Sigmar one, which was everything was locked down and you didn't really need allies because it plays well itself. And it's like, which one is it? Are we going for allies, or are we going for locking down and getting more stuff in faction? Like, which is the preferred? Because we know that like GW likes, like, they have a preferred option, and then they give you a few options if you don't want to play that way, but they have like a guide, and it's really difficult to find which one it is on this one.
So let me start off by saying, like, you're looking at like the problem with Bladeborn is more of like a symptom now, right? Like, it's a symptom of things not being like up to date because the team's small. We know they're trying. Like, we have really good communication now, or better communication now. We have things that are helping and getting adjusted. We're seeing a lot of things being fixed, but it's a symptom. Like, Vector's a symptom of Chaos's problems, of where they have an older design or a flat design, and then you inject something that's ubiquitously good and everything, and all of a sudden it's rampant. I can see that, like, yeah, like some of the best models are from another game. It's kind of frustrating. Like, that I can say is like not fun. Or if you're Soulblight Gravelords and you have 70 Underworlds warbands and they're all pretty good, and I mean, the bright side is they're amazing proxies for all the UW, and they're also fun to bring in extra layers of list building, because that's what separates this game from, let's say, Kill Team, right? Like, we're both skirmish games, but Kill Team's got like a lot of rerolls, a lot of things. It's very competitively tuned, right? Where we're more casually narrative focused, but our list building is crazy compared to it, right? So then you can find these edge cases. But yeah, it's a problem because not all of them are updated, and it's a symptomatic, right? Like, if our design's not good, we're gonna fix it with something that's not meant to be played. I think Kyle had on my team had a VFS list that was literally a scale breaker, the whip guy, and the rune fire daddy, and then it was like Enric Ironhail, Thundrick, whatever that guy's name is, and then it was also Elathane and Tamiel. And like, now it's a really cool Dungeons and Dragons list, but like, it's not the spirit of what VFS is. You're taking it for a whip to abuse a whip, to abuse shots, to abuse everything else, and then it starts becoming away from it. Although VFS is a fine one box if you want to play it, but like, that's also somebody's like top level trying to min max something to find and break it. It needs to be like, if you make KMK, right? Like, sometimes I don't even want to bring allies into KMK. You can take 2-box KMK and you're solid. Mike came in second at Adepticon with 4 egg rots and 2 monkeys, a bunch of harpoons and sauce. He played two box plus, right? Because he ordered extra eggs.
Yeah.
And he was able to play that because the faction's well designed and well written to combat things and give a good, fun, engaging time. Where, like, guess what? Our guys can't even ally in anything because they don't have the points for it. So what are you going to do with them? They can't ally anything, and they can't even play with themselves. Like, it's sad. They're just rubbing themselves against the wall.
The 4 eggs is efficient and worked obviously very well, but it's just mean.
Dog.
The eggs is mean, bro. It really is.
The Cruel Boys reaction is awful, right? Wasn't that the consensus on the line, that egg rots are terrible and the reaction was awful?
That never came from me. I can tell you that now.
From the start, Mike and I were like, this is insane on a 60-point model. It's going to sit there with T4, hide. It doesn't need visibility. We're going to hide it. We're going to put it up high. We're going to like put it underneath stairs and stuff. You can't get to it. It's going to ping you for 2 at worst. It's attacks. You're moving around me, or like, it makes it engaging on the opponent's turn. Same thing with the Cruel Boys, right? Like, they don't have the chance to do it, but all of a sudden you put a Gutlord in there. All of a sudden you put a Hroth chord in there and it completely changes the dynamics. So like having that ability to like the list building is great, taking the UW is great, but you need to design something that's not just designed box against box. Because dude, I want to spam the shit out of those whip chicks from the Briar. Like they look sick, dude. They're 40 millimeter bases. Like they go hard. It's gonna have 3-inch range. Like we know the leader's a caster. It's super fun. But just make it like I couldn't even recommend taking Pyrogeist into a tournament. And we're talking about like have fun, do what you want to do. But there's a difference of saying have fun and expect to get hurt, and then there's another thing saying have fun and then just get robbed and mugged on the way in, and then try to have a good time out of that when you're missing stuff. It's not.
Player skill can only go so far in the case of Pyrogeists.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna back off because like they're sick model designs. People probably want to play them. We've been waiting for like Nighthaunt forever. I know, like, it's like 1 out of X, right? Like November was like God tier. We got Wildercore, all that, right? We've talked about it. Myself, other people have talked about it from like a million different like shows.
It was a good month. It was a very good month.
It's a good one.
I think just to quickly touch as well on Bladeborn, right? And we mentioned Soulblight. What's cool about Soulblight is that they got heavily nerfed in the FAQ. And if anything, they've gotten more popular and also better. The lists, because they've got so much Underworld stuff in their roster now, they've completely sidestepped all of their nerfs, and they're one of the best performing warbands going, and it's crazy. Just because they've got just build an Underworld warband.
Alex, mate, you better watch it. I've got something serious cooked for September. It's coming.
Okay.
It's crazy.
Well, I was going to say
Soulblight should not be as good as they are after taking like massive 10, 15 point nerfs across the board. Now they're still amazing.
Well, there are better warbands still out there, I think. If you're going to build like a proper super competitive warband, right? There are better warbands than Soulblight Gravelords.
They're not as efficient as they used to be, but the fact that res is a game-breaking mechanic in terms of I scored points. No, you didn't. Res.
Yeah.
That hurts the game in general. Like res needs to be looked at, in my opinion.
I don't think it's just the res. I think it's in general. Like there is when you're playing like mid-point kind of warbands, like 8 people, and all of them are like in the fat middle. That's the game how it's supposed to be played. When you're playing elite, when you're playing Questor, there's a lot of tricks to get more activations on your guys that tries to kind of balance the playing field. There is nothing on Chaff to take actions away so that it balances it. So that means that Horde gameplay is just you get too many options. And that's not fun for the person playing. Because, for example, I used to play Soulblight. I stopped playing Soulblight because I was sick and tired of sitting there and going, okay, I have 20 options and I don't know which one is the best one. And then I just sit there and I'm like, because you have too many options. And the best option is always wait. And that's just not fun gameplay. And then on the other hand, like all of your chaff is still models that are not particularly easy to kill. Like no chaff in Soulblight, the exception of maybe the Graveguard with the sword that is like toughness 3. Like nothing dies in just one hit, right?
Yeah, it's
like you have to roll well. So
Unfeeling Flesh is frustrating with the efficiency of what they bring, and that's exactly. Like it's kind of exhausting. It's just tiring because if you don't bring 3x profiles, they just Unfeeling Flesh, and all of a sudden your hyper efficient goes down to like 1x, and then you're either rolling crits or you're not. And if you do roll crits and they just bring it back up, you just feel like it's like I get the play style, and like there's a need for that style of play in this game. I think RBF does it better because I have a lot of models. You can still cut through them. I have a dude that can res something, but he's not resing little ghouls unless he's trying to keep you in place. Like there's a little bit more fun back and forth there. When you have it like, and like you, me, all 4 of us like have individually talked about this and together talked about this. Like res also just cheating mechanics feels bad, or flying 12 inches, resing something up feels bad. It's like, okay, I understand you want to play this control game, there's tempo game, but it's like the tools and access to grind it out. And then, like Toast said, they took nerfs, but you could still just throw together like 3 underworlds, like the Endless Zombies are still phenomenal. You could throw together all those things, and it doesn't make a difference. You have a good, honest, viable warband that's going to be able to compete at a top table and have the tools to make a game like pretty good. It's just Unfeeling Flesh combined with Res, combined with all these things. Like if you miss your dice once, it's done. It's such a back foot. Like unless like you messing, right? Like that's the counterplay to it is like, well, none of your stuff count for objectives. I'm just going to be here.
I think one of the thing, sorry to interject, one of the thing to do with Soulblight Underworlds and specifically is that because you can take so many and none of their profiles are the same. Me and Eitan had this issue where we were having a game for Wheel Cry, I believe.
No, it was a separate one. It was a test game that we were playing.
Yeah. And what happened was he had like his entire warband was Bladeborn, and he had to constantly go and check like all their damage profiles because he didn't know what they were because they were all different. And it was the same for me. I was like, I have no idea what this guy does because he looks like this guy, but he's not. And it's because they're all named dudes, right? And it adds a uniquely time-wasting mechanic to Warcry that it completely bypasses normally, because if you see a zombie, you know that's a zombie. But if you see a Soulblight zombie, it could be 13 different zombies who all do different things, right? You'll never know.
Some of them can just electrocute you off the board as well. So it's like,
this sounds like a big.
You don't know why.
It sounds like, as the kids say, this is a skill gap here, right? I just memorized them all. I don't know what you guys are doing.
Don't you skill issue me?
It's a homework.
US meta is terrified of monsters. Don't you skill issue me?
Skill issue. We just don't enjoy it. We have Kyle's list was like literally individual models. The crazy part too is if somebody keeps rezzing Halmar the Hewer in your face, and like when you're playing Major Minor, like the old school variant of it, and he keeps rezzing Halmar, and you keep killing it, it doesn't count towards his like loss. Like you killed it 6 times, but it's one individual unique character. You have to kill 6 individual unique characters. That to me is a little bit like that's something I don't think they ever intended or thought was going to happen in this game. And that's something that needs to be looked at. Same thing with we had an issue talking about the Nova, you messing between 2 points on Lightning Raid, where clearly you messing wasn't designed with the thought of I'm going to double straddle something, and then you messing 2 things off the board. So like I don't have to cap it, but you just can't cap it. So like it's a real non-interactive piece of play. Again, like these are things that are older design that are coming into light that we're trying to get there. And like, with the advent of, I know KO is never big over there for you. Like speaking of meta, we get a lot of KO players over here.
Thank fuck
KO,
for that.
Yeah, for sure. It is literally like, I don't want to piss in your Cheerios. I don't want to yuck your yum. But when your play is that I'm going to go to the point, I'm going to fight for profit, and now I'm going to shoot 5-10 at you. And then like you just don't play the game. It's like playing Tau, dude. It's like I get like PTSD from Tau Pathfinders and Kill Team. They're like, I'm on vantage point, and then I shoot you up 70 mortal wounds, and you're just like, I didn't even get to play. I didn't even get to play a game that's like, woo, welcome to the Gur jungles. No, these guys came from the future, and they're gunning you down like SWAT team, and they don't even have to get to the point.
Okay, look, it sounds like a skill issue, bro. Right? I've beaten KO multiple times with Cypher Lords who are like F tier, and just saying, man, just get good.
Cypher Lords
are always fine.
Teleporty and fast. Like, was that before the FAQ?
No, look. Cypher Lords can't teleport away into things. They teleport to things, like to themselves. That doesn't help them get places.
Yeah. Fucking Toast
if you
is
run
over
it
there,
quickly,
like,
you can get
beating up on 3rd graders. You're another big Kaiba energy. You're a 4th rate duelist, the 5th rate deck, and then you're like just smashing kids into tables, and then you're just like, hey man, this is
he's there teleporting his whole abomination across the board.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that back in the day.
You only played 6 games of Warcry. I'm a content creator. Let me just shit on your desk, and then everyone's like, I had a great time playing it, Toast. Thanks.
I mean, speaking of, I did have, if they hadn't nerfed them, I did have like a full list because Stormbringer has been great for getting stuff. And
I
was sitting here going,
I have a list of Kharadron Overlords that happens to be fully painted.
We already
it's not even put together because I was like, I don't want to do that. So I went the good path, and I went for Ephilim, and I went for fun shenanigans rather than let's bring Kharadron Overlords to Warhammer World and just shoot everyone off the table.
I don't blame anybody who wants to take something to win. Like, I think chastising anybody who takes something that's good to win is a real fucking punk move. Will I make fun of it? Yes, I will, because I think it's the easy way out. Is it completely viable, fair, and should it be celebrated? Yeah, it should be. Somebody's trying to win, and that's stuff they might like. I don't want to dunk on it.
And they're good. Fucking Steampunk Wars are fucking great.
Yeah, it's such a cool idea of having capitalist sky pirates just come down and jack your shit, and you're like, it's ours. Like, that's super dope, dude. Like, they got great lore. They got great models. They're super cool take on dwarves. It's not just half-naked dudes with mohawks. Still cool. But, or it's not just guys sitting in armor that just sit on a point and count a 7, right? Like, they are really cool. And having the range game is awesome. I mean, I built every list I ever built to combat that potentiality of seeing that, right? Like, you've actually seen the list I played. Like, I'm either going to have a bigger gun or I'm going to have something that's going to, jam speed in there. And that's just a matter of defining and skewing my potentiality for it without giving up other matchups. That's where the game's beautiful with allies in other games, or allies in list building. But I'm not going to give old KO a spotlight here when we just spent 8 minutes complaining about Soulblight, which I think is completely fair and disgusting. But
okay, so speaking of shooting warbands like KO, then right? We talk about this a lot, sort of jokingly on the Discord and in private, right? Is shooting meta finally here? Has it arrived, even though KO has been nerfed? Are we in the shooting meta yet?
I have the answer to this.
Ooh.
I totally have the answer.
Fire away.
In real life, no.
I missed the question, but I already know this answer is going to suck, so just rewind it to me when you're done.
In real life, no, because nobody builds the kind of lists that you really need to build to capitalize on proper shooting meta, right? No one's going to build, here are my 10 trailblazers in real life. Who's building that? No one's building that.
Both these degenerates are building it. We have it built. I'm telling you.
Wow. There we go. Point stands. So in real life,
where's my bill? Shame.
In real life, no. I think online, sure, you can play whatever, right? But there's the big buts, massive buts. Rob's big butt. We are going to. I think if it becomes a thing and a real thing, right, we're going to see the age of toughness 5 chaff meta. And I've been calling this for ages. People don't believe me.
Old man yelling into the wind about T5 always existed. It's been in the game with Stormcast, IG. You had Iron Jaws.
Please.
All these
when you're bringing 6 guys, that's not Storm. That's not toughness 5 chaff. I'm talking about Storm Vermin. I'm talking about anything that's 60, 70 points that can put toughness 5 on the board. That kills shooting meta completely, because the only thing that enables shooting meta to work is Divine Blessings, and Divine Blessings allow the shooting to go to Strength 5, which means they win on 3s.
I'm going to slow your roll, sir, because it killed old shooting meta, right? But even then, you're crit fishing at that point, and where you can spam a lot more no min stuff, you don't care, because the weight of dice is going to say eventually you're just going to roll enough 6s, right? But
no one's actually bringing those lists though.
That's true.
The one guy who got 1,000 Trailblazers.
Right. So I watched Kyle roll. I think in one game, I think he topped above 200 dice he rolled. You're gonna win against MET, whatever. That's the deal. But the other thing too, if you're watching the advent of T5, is you just sidestep and say, what has burn spells? What does well into high toughness, right? Maybe we don't play our move 6 chaff I-10. Maybe we find something else, and then we can do it. Because Storm Fiends are dope, but you have to bless your strength or they're hitting on 5s. Or you're spending 270 or 240 plus to just hunt down mid-range things, which doesn't feel all that great. And then there's just ways you have to like go about it. Like T5, I've always played a lot of T5 lists with like IGN with shields way before they were like prevalent. Like I've loved playing that style. I like playing Cities of Sigmar, being able to buff myself to T5. Like these are things that are really good. And if you're not prepared to fight a tough army, like you're gonna get like gate capped by stuff like SCE, S2D anyway. So like then you have to sit there and look at it and be like, okay, well, what burns? You know, open up your Zeech archive because they have a lot of burn spells. Open up Vulcan Flame Seekers because they have a lot of stuff. Or like it's a way to find interacting. Like, and that's where like people are gonna like we're talking about like top table stuff. Like most people's local, they're not gonna be like, this is a severe problem. But I have seen like new people in the Discord say like, you know, my partner is playing this and it feels super bad to play against because they're all T5, they're all these things. I don't know what to do. Should we just shelf it? And it's like when you have a limited access to something, it does become a little bit more constringent. So I can see your point with that. But you know, just don't play move 6 things, and you probably got the answer solved right there.
Well, no. So because we're talking about is shooting meta here, and is it here to stay? And I think it's very much a construct of what happens on Tabletop Simulator League, and you don't really see it in real play. I mean, shooting things. You're right. Shooting things have always been good. Slan have been good. Flylax is pointing at himself because he's been good.
I've always played Toughness 5 like.
We're talking about shooting meta, right? Like proper shooting meta.
Fair.
Yeah. So I don't think shooting meta is just this thing that I don't even think is a real thing, because for it to be a shooting meta, it means that all the top players are basically going to bring shooting warbands,
right?
Which isn't the case. Like very few people are going hard into shooting. Very few warbands, even stuff like Wilder Corpse Hunters, right? When they were first released, there were a bunch of guys testing that out. I was one of them, putting strength on the Arbalest, shooting things, building the Trailblazers, doing all that. They dipped in popularity because people played it and it was like, this is a cool thing. But again, there were 50 different warbands, and we know the good shooting pieces is basically anything that you can give strength 5 to with a good damage profile. Generally, you're only getting 1 or 2 of those, right? You're only going to bring 1 Slan. There's like the wild man who brought 3 Slan to the last Warhammer World event, but
I
can't believe he came last. He lost all of his games. It's really sad.
Yeah, exactly. But you go that far into a warband and you say, right, this is what I'm going to do because it's going to blow people off the board. It doesn't function as a proper warband, and that's the problem that I had when building Wilder Corpse. When you try and build it normally, I put in like Haskell and Pock I was testing in Wilder Corpse, right?
Yeah.
And the issue was that eventually you have to sacrifice something for that level of strength if you're going to if you just want to knock over models and play like a leaf blower list, you have to sacrifice things. And as soon as they hit like proper tournament missions and you play in an actual event, sure, you'll win 3 out of 4 games, possibly. But you're not going to win an event with it because you don't have the variety of models needed to do it. Now, 10 double crossbow Trailblazers, that's a different thing entirely because it puts models on the board and it just shoots with stuff. And they happen to have 12 wounds, which is really, really good. And that's like the big thing for them, right? If they get 12 wounds and they get to shoot, that's what makes them awesome. But only Trailblazers can do that. There's no other fighter in the game with that kind of profile at that price point that allow you to do it. I think the closest thing is probably Warlocks with twin crossbows, but they're like 100 points more expensive.
Yeah, they're 10 points more than
10 points more expensive.
Yeah, they're 10 points
and
more
you've got
than
to bring
them.
the Shroud Queen.
Right. I mean, you do get a better leader out of it, but
and you also have to play Shadowstalkers.
And you have to play Shadowstalkers. Yeah, exactly. So that's why I think that shooting meta is not a thing. Shooting models exist, yes, and there are very strong shooting support pieces. But in terms of, everyone at the top tables are going to bring shooty guys, and this is something you need to properly prepare for, otherwise you're just going to lose. I don't think it's. I don't think it's necessary.
We extensively we extensively tested when Wildercore first came out, your Trailblazer spam.
Yeah.
I was running Slingshot, Vulcan Flame Seekers or whatever.
Yeah.
And it did, like, people will bring faster things to counter this, and people bring fast things in most lists now anyway. That's kind of like the go-to thing. Those kind of lists will likely not have the kill power because you're relying on just rolling sixes. And I can do that, but most people can't, right? So if your dice aren't working, and they're not likely to work despite the volume of shots, your guys are going to get completely steamrolled by a fast-moving thing. They can't hold objectives because you've got to get close in, then you get steamrolled in close combat. And I've never seen it work because all the games that we played against it, like, I was able to catch you, brawl you, kill you, and that was it. And that's how all of our games ended with that. And I don't...
You're giving them a reason. You're giving them a reason. Why would you do that?
First off...
Oh, no, the reason...
It's like, listen, I watched 2 groups of 4 Trailblazers each. 1 deployment, a Vanguard crashed into it, left 1 on like 3, right? He only hit like he didn't completely kill it, right? And then he continued to dump, and it doesn't matter if you dump. And I know you and I are vibe guys. We're not math guys. Like, let's put that out there. I'm never going to be like, oh, I love doing the math. Like, I don't, right? Like, I do partially for my job. I don't like doing math outside. But if you dump, let's say 8 shots per dude, and then the double's making it dump another 8 shots per dude, or another 4. So you have 4 times 8, which is 32, and then have another shot, right? And that's going to be another 36. And if you have another double, you can get up to 40 dice on 1 unit. I think it's going to remove, you're going to roll a couple 6s, mathematically speaking. I've watched it be.
Probably.
But you can't play a regular, like, I have a couple of these guys.
There is a game on Aitan's channel where he does that, and he removes the Annihilator Prime in 1 turn of shooting, and it was kind of disgusting.
Yeah, but you have to look at the amount of resource that I put into that Annihilator Prime to actually kill it. It was literally my entire warband just going, ha-ha!
That's the thing. And then you use a quad to make them move. If you get a quad, like, you have ways to get up and catch up. And when you can do that across the board, it's kind of scary.
That was also the Prime rolling in and whiffing his attacks, not killing the Trailblazer.
Right, exactly. Right. Like, he didn't hit his, like, mathematical, I should have, like, killed you in 1 swing.
Well,
like,
he didn't do anything. He missed all of his attacks. Is what happened.
Right.
It was really bad.
It's problematic. I mean, right. If you don't roll the 6s or the 5-ups, it doesn't work. They can use the triple to make them crit on 5s, which is pretty cool. They have those tricks, right? Like, I don't think there is a shooting meta as much as having, it's fair to say that warband should have some sort of range support. So there is definitely play to that, or having an identity for that. And having that, like having a POC, having these things will say, hey, you want little guys, I'm going to rip through them at the cost of me doing whatever. Like, if you're not ready to handle Slan Starmaster, it's still going to do work. Like, it's going to completely shut your game out. And if, like, you have a lot of T5 and it's like, hey, I'm not going to be able to rip it down, I'm going to have to do whatever else I want. Like, it could still roll 5s and 6s and still annihilate stuff off the board. Like, you have to like, it's going to demand respect no matter what it is. Now there's just you're not seeing the 5-10 cannons, which make non-games, right? Like, 3 shots at 5-10 at range make non-games. I've been at the experiencing at, like, the end of it, experiencing it. It's not fun. Where at least it's like, oh, you're slaying Starmaster, it's 3-6, 3 shots. Like, oh, okay, I took cover, I'm still alive, it's okay. I'm hurting though, that thing's scary, I gotta respect it. But when it's something that's 120 points walks or 110 points walks up, and it's just like, you're off the board. I just removed your 300 point model. You're off the board. I just rolled 2 crits and a hit. That's 25. It's off the board. Take it off. And it feels miserable. So I'm glad that true shooting gun line is not there. But it still largely exists. So, like, because it's not there, if you take something like Order of Azir and figure out or tweak a list to have Armin Callus, to have POC, you have a slanting, like a shooting slant, and that's going to completely work wherever you're at because people weren't preparing for it, right? So it's like, it exists, but in, like, drops. You don't have to worry about things.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's the thing. That's a duality of it. Exactly as you said. It's either something that's really good at shooting and then it becomes an auto-include because you'll always have use for projection, or it's going to be kind of shit like the J Obelisk archers. Why would you take him? Why would you take him? Where would you ever take him? Right? Because it isn't a shooting profile on top of the guy just the regular profile, it's a shooting profile, and then the attack profile is shit, and then it can't use. Can you tell I've been building Jade Obelisk? But yeah, like you just can't get there's no reliability because the whole thing is about reliability. And FLM getting the strength buff, taking her to 2.536, was like a perfect kind of bit where it's like you've got the double for movement, so you can place FLM wherever you want. I still somehow found the way to place FLM in the most danger, but you can do your 2 attacks and you get some. So you have the plus of like it's fairly reliable damage, and you can place FLM where you want them, and they can do their shots. And then you have to contest with the fact that it's a toughness 3 model, 18 wounds, and has a 7 max range. So that means that you have to be quite close to the action. So that's relatively well balanced. But a Slan Starmaster, yeah, good luck killing it. It has no minimum range. It has maximum range of however many inches. You know,
that's the thing is like no min. Yeah. No min's a killer, and it needs to be pointed a little bit higher, in my opinion, because no min is effective, right? Like you move into range, you still be able to shoot, still be able to like do what it wants to do.
Yeah, I still think that POC is like right at that level. Because it's like, if you are able to get up to POC, also it's a unique model. That's one of the problems as well. Because if you have a good profile that you can spam, forget about it. POC, if you can run up to POC, toughness 4, 10 wounds, it's not difficult. And then you've got him locked up anyways. So yeah, it's all about the balance.
Puck can heal himself on a reaction. I've had Puck like tank on multiple turns against someone because he just heals back up straight.
Like what, a D3?
A D3, he's only 10 wounds, and like we just talked about like an hour ago. We talked about an hour ago like how the lethality of this game is just so much more. So like it's not. I mean, if you do fail to remove him, but he can't no min shot though.
Yes.
Right? He's been there sitting. I'm punching you for like 1, 2, or I'm using my reaction to heal and just keep you tied up. He's not doing what you paid 150 points for at that point. He's like a waste. And like, but like you're banking on him for getting an opening shot off, hit explosive shots, clean off or thin down things, or get a lucky kill like on your last Wheel Cry episode where you just start off -1 model T1, and that's where it goes, right? You're paying like can we just say stop being a coward and buff the Knight Judicator? Why is he only 1 shot? He's got that awesome bow. Stop being a coward. Buff that guy, and I'll play that guy in a heartbeat.
Hey, none of the Stormcast have good damage profiles. Like it's fine.
That's a lie. That's a complete lie.
Star Soul Mace.
What?
Fine.
All right. If you want a shooting model out of Stormcast, you can take a Knight Relictor. It's got a 2-4-3-6 damage profile that you can make a 2-5-3-6.
Yeah, but then you're playing a Knight Relictor.
I like Knight Relictor.
Oh no, bring a Soul Sworn Knight Relictor then, and then you can move things.
Yeah, that one's good.
Nobody's talking about the other Knight Relictor. We're talking about the Quester.
The Quester, yes.
But like the whole thing too, like that guy's like the 235 for 1 shot, 20-inch range, sure. 1 shot, 5 strength, 2-6 damage, or something like that. Or like, it's 410 damage, right? But you're paying 235 for it. And there's no way to force multiply it. Just make it 4-8 damage.
That sounds like a skill issue, man. You're not rolling your dice properly.
Give it two. Coming from the guy that's scared of T5, fuck off. Listen.
I said I was scared of T5. I said everyone should play T5. You ain't seeing.
Rock guards are so scary. Like, come on. Listen. I want to play that model so bad you have no idea, but I would roll 1 die, it would be a 2, and I'd lose my mind for it's a temperament issue for me.
Hey, out of 1.5 games, you will crit once.
That's true, and it will do 10 damage. And then that
could be that one game that you play.
Rob's gonna crit 3 times in the first 5 minutes.
And then I'm gonna complain about it that it wasn't 4 times.
Yes.
That was gonna work. I don't know. I mean, the game is still sweet, dude, and it's there's so much here to it. There's so much to unpack. I don't think we're done seeing whatever's going to be in the future of the horizon for us. I want Briar Bone to be decent. Just be decent. I'm not asking you to go to Ivy League. I'm asking you for a C+, B-. Don't give me this Pyrogeist, like, you didn't even show up to class. Pyrogeist was doing hardlining heroin between his toes in the bathroom and didn't show up to anything. And then the Riverblades were like, guys, we're pinging you, and I'm going to move. And then gave us a good leader.
I think I think the last thing before we sign off, I think, is quickly going over the idea that we mentioned that the Star Master didn't really see play until fairly recently in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah,
right? And then prior to that, the reveal before that was a Crothgorn just slid under the radar forever till Rob decided to be born and then wreck the meta with it, right? Just kicking and screaming the whole way. Like
a lot of crying for me.
There's like over 1,000 units in Warcry across 50 factions. There is so much to be. There you go, 1,400 units to go through.
Like,
I don't know why you thought he wouldn't know this.
I know, right?
That's impressive.
Things can be found at any time, and new things do crop up 2 years down the line that people haven't been playing that suddenly gain popularity because it was discovered suddenly to be actually quite good. And like experimentation is like the heart of Warcry, and it's this building process, and it's so easy to fall into the crutch of what's good now, what's like what is the played list, right? And that's fine if that's what you want to play, but there's also so much value in going out there and experimenting and finding something that works like for you, and then seeing that actually become something that works as a whole, right? You being part of the meta changing process, because it should be fluid. It should be a fluid process, and expressing yourself through list building and gameplay is such an important part of Warcry, at least from my perspective, that going in, if you like Cypherlords, fuck it, jump in, play Cypherlords, right? If you like Cover Cabal, jump in, play them. People don't play these warbands, right? These warbands got updated in the FAQ, and I am willing to bet that no one bar me and maybe 3 other guys on the planet have actually went in and played some of the older warbands since the update to see if like Elf Chaff and Elf warbands have actually gotten indirectly better because better Chaff got nerfed. We don't know. I mean, someone should go out there and do that.
I did get Splinter Fang because I just love the idea of you can always hit on 3s. There's a lot of
potential 1 and 2s.
But that's the thing is, I agree 100%. And I don't know, because I know Rob also organizes games, so I don't know if you've seen this, but in the last, I want to say 6 months, maybe a bit more, I've been trying to get people more into the hobby. I've been trying to build a kind of local community up here, and it's the Meta Watch and some of the releases and all of this stuff is getting people more interested in it. And there was a big push on the kind of casual matched play Spearhead thing, where I'm like, why would you want casual matched play? Because that's Warcry. Why would you do it with Spearhead? And the answer is because we're trying to get people into 4th edition. But I genuinely feel like that's the space where Warcry is, because they pushed it for the longest of time as a narrative game. And there's some narrative, it's good for narrative, but I genuinely feel like its true calling is the fact that it's a game that you can play to the best of your abilities, fast, and you can go to a tournament and it's going to be a few hours of your life. It's not going to be absolutely draining you. You're not going to hate life by the end of it. And I think that a lot of people, like myself, for example, I don't have the time to properly get into Age of Sigmar. So this is why Warcry is so fun, because I get to play with all of these toys and I get to try them. And the kind of risk reward is incredible. And I feel like a lot of people are coming into it. And if they keep it going, and if they do something cool, like if we get boxes down the line that are like Scaventide themed, and we start getting we get back to the original aesthetic of like ruined cities and something that's cooler than fucking meat trees. My apologies, but it's just what's not it. So if they push Warcry with something that is more fun and that will get people in, I think that we're going to see the meta moving a lot faster, because the more people you have in, the more things are tried out. And I mean, Glasgow now has regular players. Edinburgh has regular players. And, you know, you see people bringing things and trying things out in real time and going, oh shit, this is actually good. Why is no one playing this? Because no one's playing it, you know? So yeah, I think we're at a good start, and it's only getting better.
Just to add on to that real quick before we exit, I agree with you. I think what makes this game fun is like, it's not like Magic the Gathering or Yu-Gi-Oh! Where you have a clear cut, this deck is just X infinite better than this. And if you're not doing it, it's a disservice to what you're doing. Where you have in this game the ability to create lists and put your own personal stamp, your own personal player expression and identity in there, and try and perform your best. And dice be damned. Sometimes you're going to roll sixes, sometimes you're going to roll ones. You can have something. I played lists I thought were going to be amazing, and they turned out to be poo-poo. I played lists that I thought were going to be mediocre, and they went wild and hard. You have the ability to take all comber lists like you guys do in UK, or specialized lists for missions. I think there's just a lot going on, and I think also it's Dad Hammer, right? Like AOS is Dad Hammer compared to 40K. This is the Dad Hammer of skirmish games. Everybody I met, like you guys, right? Like two of you guys have kids, I have kids. Like we're just chilling, we're having a good time. It's an hour to an hour and a half game. You show up, that's it. Like everyone's busy, we got stuff, and it's a good time. And there's just so much more to test and have fun. If we get stuck playing or chasing only what's at the top end, we'll never see what could possibly be a better thing. Also, why not paint something you love, stick it in as a pet? Sure, chances of winning might drop down a little bit, but who cares? Like you're doing what you want to do, you're having fun, and you're experimenting. But
just roll sixes, and then balances
up. D20s up your butt and roll sixes. That's the we already discussed this at the beginning. That's the easiest thing to do. Tibbs does it all the time.
Yeah, but we'll call it there. Let's do a random plug-in, then Eitan can take her home. I'm tired. I'm old. Rob, who are you going to plug?
Obviously, I'm going to plug 3H1C, 3 Rows, 1 Chef. It's my team. Bunch of great guys, great players. We run TTS League and Discord. Come ask us any questions, chat with us, hit us up, watch some of our videos, have a good time, learn how to play your best Warcry.
Beautiful. Eitan.
Yes, Eitan, you can find me over on Off Meta Musings, where I play games with these three guys, basically.
Wow.
We do a lot of Warcry, a lot of Warcry, a whole bunch of stuff, anything and everything you want to know, it's on there. Come check it out.
Alex.
I don't have much of a presence. I have an Instagram that I update semi often, but the big thing is I run games of Warcry up in Scotland. So if you're tuning in from Scotland and you wanna play some Warcry, whether it's casual level or the more competitive, I run games both in Edinburgh and Glasgow. I'm running 2 tournaments called the 8 Trials, where they are tournaments where top place will get comp tickets to the big tournament at Tabletop Scotland. So we're slowly building a competitive scene up here, just following up from what the Pit's been doing down south, and obviously London's got quite a few, and in the middle you've got Warhammer World, so getting some options up here is imperative. So Glasgow Warcry group is where I post most of the stuff around organizing, but we'll probably at some point move to the World Cry UK kind of branding, but we'll get there.
Beautiful.
We'll get there.
Beautiful. And obviously I'm Toast, so check out War Games on Toast, but more importantly, check out the Warcry Discord. We've talked about Discord an awful lot on this podcast. Check that out. We run monthly leagues for casual and competitive. So if you want to get really sweaty, you can go and into competitive, if you get really sweaty but pretend you're not, go into casual. It's great. Really good time.
Oh, casual's
So, yeah.
fun for everybody. A lot of
Casual's
new
great.
players having a good time in there.
So join the World Cry World Tour. It's fantastic. But yeah, I've been Toast.
Lord Phylax.
Girth Demon, also known as Robert Muscomi.
And I've been I-10.
Hey, and we've been Wild Dice, and we'll catch you all in the next video or podcast, whatever it is.
See you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.